I never saw a gun. He does say it was probably there, but it was all obscured with all these bushes and junk, and it was there and all, it's just I didn't see it. He does not want to, the term of art a policeman uses in this situation, if he is less honest than this gentleman, it's called test-a-lying, okay? As opposed to testifying, you test-a-lie. And he doesn't want to lie. Cops fail the lie detector test almost all the time because they have a thing about lying. It has to do with why they became policemen and truth, justice, and the American way. Pathological liar beat the box every time because they don't care. This guy is an honest guy to a point. He did not want to do a direct lie. So he says, well, everybody tells me the gun was there, and officially it was there, but I'm telling you I never saw it. Next one. How can he secure the death scene without even knowing the gun's there? Okay, this is cute. This is a Senate report. It says Park Police Officer Kevin Fornshall also did not notice a gun in Mr. Foster's hand until someone pointed it out to him. That is a miscite. They're citing the thing you just read, the deposition, and if you go and read the whole deposition, he is adamant that he never saw it. Just as you read with me, it was pointed out to him and he said, I didn't see it, I don't see it. Senate report miscites, like all the reports do in this case. Miscites the underlying record gathered by, not Hugh Sprunt, but by the feds themselves. Next one. Okay, this is one more. This is Arthur. One of the fascinating things here, and I'm going to speculate a little bit. Remember the first guy to find the body, adamant there was no gun. The first cop on the scene doesn't see a gun. Other people did see a gun. And the gun is just described as the weapon, the gun. Arthur, the gentleman who saw the bullet wound here, remember, in the jawline? He was one of the first paramedics on the scene. He was interviewed by the FBI. He did see a gun. He came a few minutes after the other police officer, or the police officer, Kevin Fornshall. And here's what he had to say about what he saw in Foster's hand. Remember now, the official death weapon is a wheel gun. It's a revolver. Put the bullets in the cylinder rotates. It is not a semi-automatic pistol. That's a magazine-fed weapon like a .45 automatic, like, not to put too fine a point on it, a 9mm Beretta used by federal police officers, or the 10mm semi-automatic pistol used by the FBI. Now, they ask Arthur, did you see a gun? He says, oh yeah, he's telling the truth. He'll tell you what he saw. He says, I'm 100% sure it was an automatic weapon. At this point, the FBI guy probably tosses his cookies. And so Arthur looks at him in surprise and says, yeah, I was in the Army. I look at magazines. I know the difference between an automatic and a revolver. Appeared like a .45 automatic. Okay, here's what I think happened. This whole thing got screwed up. You got a dead body, suicide. This confidential witness bumbles onto it long before it's supposed to be found. And there's a long story supporting this line of reasoning, although it is speculation. And no gun. Cop shows up on the scene, no gun. We do know that there was a SWAT team at the park that night. You can read Chris Ruddy's book and Ambrose Evans Pritchard's book, and a SWAT team member's name does appear in the record, so we know they were there. I am hypothesizing, and this is speculation, and I won't defend it till my dying breath, that there was no gun in the hand until some helpful federal officer, realizing you have a suicide by gunshot with no gun there, well, a crook came along and took the gun. Says here, we'll put a placeholder gun down, namely my federal 9mm or 10mm automatic, which looks just like a .45 automatic pistol. But that would be a problem, you see, because we can't have Mr. Foster shooting himself with a SWAT team guy's revolvers. Like, did they know each other? Gee, Frank, how do you get your gun? It obviously won't fly. So they were freaking out because more and more people were showing up, and they couldn't have 18 guys like Arthur running around saying, yeah, I'm 100% sure it was an automatic. You know, whoops. So they looked around and they got a drop gun. And a drop gun goes like this. Say you're a policeman, it's a dark and stormy night, and you're in the alley. And in a flash of lightning, you look up and you see a shape moving toward you, and it has what you think is a gun in its hand, and the guy is swinging around, and you think you see the gun, and you think, well, you know, rapidly you go through the 25 pages of what you have to do according to your regulations to clear leather. You go through these pages really fast, you clear leather and blow the guy away. You go down the alley, it's a 10-year-old kid and he had a water pistol, and you say, well, there is a well-planned career blown to rags. Now, many policemen would just say, hey, put yourself in my position, I thought I was going to get shot. Some that are not quite so honest would reach down to their ankle holster, pull out an untraceable drop gun, pocket the water gun to take home to their own kid, press the drop gun, which is untraceable. That's the whole idea. It's, if you run it through the National Firearms Tracing Center, the last thing you hear about it was Colt made it in 1913 and sold it in wholesale in Seattle, and that's the last record we have. And then people go, oh boy, Frank, Deadeye Frank, excuse me. You were lucky you got this guy before he shot you. It's too bad it was a 10-year-old kid, but damn, he did have this Army Colt 38 Special in his hand. Okay, so that's my hypothesis. Now, we're going to see some more about the gun later that's kind of cute, but let's continue on. I'm doing the gun and the wound to start here because that's, people usually get interested in those. Next one. We have a little potpourri of cute things at the end that bounce all around the block. Okay, we're slightly different subject. Mr. Fisk busted his buns to make sure that we all thought that the official death weapon found in Mr. Foster's hand at some point that night was a Foster family heirloom gun. And he didn't do a very good job. He did the best he could, but he couldn't do a very good job because the facts didn't support him. When shown the gun, Foster's sister said it appeared very similar to one their father had kept bedside table, specifically recalling the pattern on the grip. In a letter that was written on her behalf to the investigators, she says, the only thing about the gun that I remember was the web-like or wavy detailing on the grip. Guess what? Most guns have some sort of detailing on the grip so they don't slip. The letter makes clear that was the only feature of the gun that she remembered. Lisa Foster. Now this is going to be fascinating and you have to pay attention. This is one of the main reasons why I really object that they do this crap even indirectly in my name. It's just, I mean, the contempt these people must have for us. Okay, here we go. Lisa Foster, that's the widow, stated the gun, that's the official death gun, looked similar to one that she had seen in their home in Arkansas. Oh, pretty good. Widow's seen that gun. She had brought it to Washington. Even better, it got to Washington, where they were living. Foster had packed a trunk. Lisa repacked the trunk to go to Washington. She saw the gun. She brought it to Washington. Next page. So here we go. This is Mr. Fisk giving us a little chain of custody, if you will, to prove to us that Foster owned the gun. Senate report. Mrs. Foster examined the revolver recovered from Foster's hand and stated it may have been a gun which she's seen at a Little Rock residence, just like what we've heard before. Go down here. Here's our footnote. They're explaining this. And it's hard to read, so I'll read it for you. Mrs. Foster had seen a silver-colored handgun inside a travel trunk when she was packing, just like we just heard about in the Fisk report. While unpacking the gun in Washington, Mr. Foster saw the gun and commented on it, so on and so on. Mr. Foster kept a gun in their bedroom closet. Mrs. Foster, the widow, did not believe her husband carried a gun in the family to work. She found the gun Mr. Foster kept in their closet, but noted it was not the silver gun she had seen that she'd brought up to Little Rock. The Senate report goes on to say she believed the gun found in Fort Marcy Park may be the gun which she brought to Washington with the rest of the family belongings. That is the silver gun. Here's what happened. The park police make a death notification. They go to the Foster home that night. Mrs. Foster, the new widow, and her daughter Laura, a Vanderbilt sophomore, I believe, were in the house. They say, well, Mrs. Foster, your husband Vincent is dead. She gets very upset, of course, and at some point fairly soon, and they tell her he was shot with a gun. So she goes up to where she knows the gun that she brought up from Washington, or from Little Rock, the silver gun, where it's stored in the house. She looks there that night, a few minutes after she was told about the death. It's gone. So she's no dummy. I mean, I would have thought the same thing. She said, well, I just found out my husband's dead. I go to where this one gun is that he saw when I unpacked it and he packed it and I brought it up here, this silver gun, and I go to where we keep it in the house and it ain't there. Well, gosh, I think it was the gun that he shot himself with too, wouldn't you? Okay, let's keep going. Next one. This is going to blow up like the mouth to neck. Now, here's what's going on. The park police interviewed the widow 9 days after the death. The gun was out to see if it could shoot. Incidentally, the park police ruled the gun was the suicide weapon before they heard from the ATF that it could even shoot. But that's another story. So the gun was out for testing, so they showed her a nice 8x10 color photo. And here's the problem Mr. Fisk had some months later, 9 days after the death. Park police thing. She, meaning the widow, was presented with a photograph of the weapon found with Mr. Foster's body, but was unable to identify it. Why? Next one. Guess Handy dandy, interviewer contemporary notes right from his little investigator's notebook. Why could she not identify it? Guess what? Just like the reports tell us so far, she expected to see what? Not the gun she thought it must be. In other words, the gun they showed her the picture of was not the gun she thought it must be, because she expected to see a silver 6-gun with a large barrel. The silver gun she brought up from Little Rock, the gun that wasn't at her house where it was supposed to be. They showed her a picture of the official death gun. She could not identify it. Why? It didn't look like the silver gun that all the reports are telling us, you know, she did identify. Next one. Okay, this is going to, I want to make it clear here. I've got some friends in the FBI. I've got some FBI agents that interviewed me at length with Mr. Starr's office. We got along, but they aren't my friends. We were sort of having a little fun with each other. And also interviewed by a member of the Washington, D.C. Cold Case Homicide Squad. We pulled each other's chain too. But I want to make it clear tonight that I think that there are some rotten apples in the Bureau. I don't necessarily think, and don't want to be understood to be telling you that I think those rotten apples have spoiled not even the whole barrel, but I mean maybe very little of the barrel. But there is a rotten apple or two in there.